just want to say I didn't even realize I passed the torch of sexy jazz voice, Jamie.
Yeah, it's been a good week of...
But allergy stuff has been hard for us lately.
Hello and welcome to Table for Five with no reservations. Take a seat at the table for a fresh, sweet, salty, tart, and pleasantly bitter conversation.
Thank you for taking a seat at the table. Tonight we have Mishka Sibert with us, who is doing some powerful work to highlight the experiences of siblings. We're very excited to speak with her. And tonight I have Jen.
Hello, everyone.
Jamie.
Hey.
Rachel.
Hey, everybody.
Kim.
Hello.
And Mishka.
Hey.
We are so excited to have you. If you want to do a little introduction of yourself and who you are for our listeners, that would be excellent.
Thank you for having me. So I'm so happy to be sitting virtually at the table with this such powerful mothers and women. Women first. Yes. So, gosh, I was just telling you that I'm changing my introduction constantly because I'm constantly doing new things. So the most present one is that I'm, yes, sibling to an amazing autistic brother, which doesn't change. He's going to be 20 this year. It's a very long journey. I'm 28. We're both from Slovakia and we create a business together because there's no employment in Slovakia for my brother and there's 85% chance of unemployment generally around autism. So I created a job role of creative director for him and he's an amazing artist. We've got a beautiful merch that was praised by Ben Affleck and Anna Kendrick on our national TV. Yes, it was amazing because my intention was to raise awareness and to show people what amazing things people that are autistic can actually achieve and to see that ability, as I call it, invisibility. But we moved to bigger advocacy and we are now international non-governmental organization that is registered in Slovakia. We are part, I'm part of the biggest European association called Autism Europe that is working closely with the European Parliament also. So I'm fully on into advocacy for the rights of autistic people and children because families need to be heard. And we know a lot more many times than some people that are educated. Unfortunately, it's still true around multiple European countries. And I heard in American Canada too sometimes. So our voices of families are extremely important. And because our voices are important, and we are on this journey for so long, there are people that are unfortunately overlooked because not intentionally by parents, which are siblings, and I advocate for them, and which is my own personal journey also connected to that. So I published a book called Mother's Guide to Sibling Relationships, and it includes 50 reference studies around psychology, parenting, autism, siblings of children with disabilities. And it's a powerful resource for everyone, on this journey, now for moms, with siblings, and also for psychology specialists and therapy, so they know about those experiences and can support mental health of the whole family because it's so important. And we're in this together. So yeah, that's my mission. That's what I do.
I love that.
Just a powerhouse.
You said Ben Affleck. I'm like, all I've done with Ben Affleck is I rented him a tanning bed.
You both have a connection to Ben Affleck.
Amazing.
Mine's a little less impressive, just to be clear.
Speaking of impressive, I wish we clapped. Mishka, come on, girl.
Yeah, powerhouse.
Yeah,
powerhouse,
that's amazing.
Making
Amazing.
change.
Also, there's
Thank
this
you.
picture on Instagram that melted my heart of you and your brother where he looks 3.5 feet taller than you because I think he is 3.5 feet taller than you. And I want to let you know that if I could have climbed through and hugged you both right then and there, I would have. Thank you for sharing him and your story.
Thank you. Yes, he's like my big brother now.
Yeah.
It's your big brother, that's for sure.
Yes,
So-
I would change roles.
The book, which I have been reading and just recently came out, which I love so much. It's a mother's guide to sibling relationships, but I really feel like as I'm reading it, that is more of a perspective of like telling mothers and parents and caregivers that it's okay to feel and be and navigate through this any way that you want to. So I kind of wanted to start with this section, chapter 2, which is my favorite, emotions as our guide. I'm just going to read a little clip from this, which is my philosophy as well, that, and we talk about this often, that any emotions that you have are okay. And I just want to read this paragraph. Emotions are information about how we respond to the environment around us. They can tell us whether we believe something is righteous, delightful, or unfair. They can also tell us whether we see something as worthy of our time, attention, or whether a situation seems dangerous. But none of the emotions we feel are inherently bad. This concept of bad emotions has forced many people to be ashamed of their feelings, which makes them push away their feelings because they're afraid of being judged by others or even themselves, which I think as parents, often there's a lot of talk and discussion, especially towards mothers, about processing our kids' autism diagnosis and how we shouldn't feel sad, we shouldn't feel ashamed about our own personal feelings about diagnosis, all the other side of, and you call it a rainbow. What's the language that you used? It's basically you connected it to the rainbow. Like you have to have both sides of the purple, the blue, the green in order to celebrate the red, orange, and yellow, which I just think is the most beautiful way to describe it. It's empowering to feel everything that you feel. And as a human being, you have to see both sides in order to appreciate the joy and love and caring and beautiful parts of who we are as human beings. So I really, really connected to that in your book. And you talk about your brother, like how each one of you can get the same colors, but come up with a different painting because of our perception of that experience. So it was beautiful. It's the thing I loved about your book is that it's a really easy short read. I mean, as far as page wise goes, but there's a lot of like heavy scientific information in here that doesn't seem overwhelming to like a normal reader, someone who maybe doesn't have a background in like science or something like that. So I loved it. That section specifically about emotions really hit me in my heart, because we preach that all the time. Like it's okay to talk about all sides of the spectrum of emotions, and in your sibling relationship, can you talk to us a little bit about that path of understanding like how to change your mindset? Because you talk about that a lot in your book.
Yes, thank you very much first of all for sharing this, because that's my first like this live review. That's it's so amazing. Yes, so amazing. So read back my book to me. It's like, wow. Yes, because I've been reading and working on it, and like, it's just like you're in it. But when you see it from outside, someone reading it back to you, it's like, wow, really? Yes, I looked at this painting. I know that your listeners won't see, but this one, when I saw it, my brother painted it, and you see the dark colors in it, like very navy blue colors with orange, and he's very yellow. He loves all the colors, and he loves dark colors. He loves all the colors. And I look at his painting and I say, wow, it's beautiful. And that's when I was creating the content, it came to my mind for this book, that how can I refer to like a rainbow of emotions? Like we're not saying all the violet or like darker colors of the rainbow are like bad. We are looking at a full range and saying that's beautiful, and that's what makes us human. And that is very important, because sometimes I feel that the society is trying to make us less human. But my brother, he taught me how to be better human, how to be a better human being, and how to connect to my humanity, what makes me human, emotions, intuition, body, compassion, empathy, all those things are extremely important. And that's what we need more in this world. So I always say that he made me better human, because he really did. He's got the biggest heart, and he opened my heart so much. So I'll tell you, when you were talking about diagnosis, right, and how you deal with this as a mother, for me, many people ask me, it's like, how did you deal with this as a sibling? And I say, well, I didn't know what autism was, really. I didn't really know much. Like, that was 17 years ago. So there was not much information in Slovakia. Still, there's a lack of it, to be honest. So that's why I advocate hard everywhere, wherever I go. But when I realized that he's nonverbal and he's not speaking. Like he's not saying the word, he can say mama, but that's like he calls me mama and calls my mom mama. That's the only like word like that like in the verbal vocabulary that you can find that he uses. But he's wonderful communicator. We use PECs also, and he's a wonderful visual communicator, but he uses a lot of nonverbal communication. That's why I've got in a book also, because that's what he taught me, how to be a better communicator, how to connect more with people. But when we're talking about the siblings, well, nobody talks about siblings in Central Europe. And so I felt like there's something wrong with me. So I started feeling like, oh my God, why I'm tired. Like it started just really simple, like, why am I tired constantly? Like, why do I need to like lay down? And I felt bad about self-care. I felt bad about laying down when I was on my cycle and my body was asking me to, because, you know, my cycle would get worse because I'm very sensitive when I would have very bad cramps, when I would be stressed out and I had held emotions inside of me. It would really cause a lot of tension in my womb and it would like really eat me inside, basically. It would show up as psychosomatic symptoms when I held a lot of emotions inside of me. And I had many like illnesses all the time. Something was wrong with me when I was a child, right? And ended up in hospital when Samko was 12, when I was 12, sorry. Samko was diagnosed with autism. He was 3 and I was 12. And I had problem with appendix, for example. So there's something always happening with me. And I didn't know like why. It wasn't really like physical. And now when I read about this book, I'm sure I was like, yes, we siblings like held a lot of emotions inside and we are struggle to deal with them and we are scared to talk about those things, because if parents don't make it okay to accept negative emotions as part of our human being self and don't communicate that to us, we feel like, oh, we don't want to burden you. Oh, I should not have any problems. I should be perfect because I'm like, you know, I have it so much better. Like that's what we kind of feel, you know, and it can show up as the behavior from parents towards us, also like how they treat us. And what I realized one thing is when autism showed up on paper as a diagnosis, my parents didn't know what to do and they tried to find solutions and support my brother. But what I realized is like this stigma around disability created separation between us. Oh, you're put into this box and I'm put into this box. So those boxes suddenly put a lot of different dynamic, change the dynamic of relationship. So suddenly we're not siblings. I'm the one that doesn't need that much support. I'm the one that is verbal, I'm communicative, and I'm maybe more mature because whatever, and so on. So I'm put all these labels on me and in my mindset, and I put them on me also. And he's, you know, labels are put on him also. And those labels are limiting either our growth, which happened with my brother, or are putting a separation between us that I try to break out of. Like I didn't know that there's something happening. I just felt like there are certain emotions inside of me that I didn't understand how to process and why I feel this way. Like I love my brother so much. Like he's my best friend. He's my soulmate. Like we just hug each other constantly. We just adore each other. I felt bad about feeling those negative emotions. And I felt there's something wrong with me. I must be the fault. Like I should not feel this way. I should not feel jealous. I should not feel resentful when he's got it. Oh, he doesn't have to do certain things, but I have to do more because I'm seen as neurotypical. Why I say seen is because many women are undiagnosed neurodivergent women. Yeah. So I believe I'm neurodivergent 100%, but I'm not diagnosed, right? We don't have diagnosis in Slovakia about that. That would confirm that. But that's why I'm seen as neurotypical. So there's just a lot of pressure on me. I'm put in the caregiver mode because my mom, she struggles, first of all, asking for help. Secondly, she's super independent woman. Also, she's taught that she's got to be independent by my grandma and it's like generational, this self-sacrificial, hyper-independent. You've got to do everything on your own. You should never cry. You've got to be tough, because that was like taught in our feminine lineage, you know. That's why my mom learned. She's also the older sibling herself. So she knew that she's got to be more responsible. And it's just like started repeating. But there's difference. I told my mom this, which I also start in the beginning, because my book is like, your perspective and your experience as a mother of a special needs child is your perspective. My perspective as a sibling is my perspective because autism came to my life when I was 9, right? basically when he was diagnosed 12, but Samko was born when I was 9. So it affected me very early on when my brain was not developed enough to process many things and cope with so many anxieties and stressors and so many things and emotions. So I was not supporting that, therefore, I had hit very hard. But my grandma, for example, she never raised special needs child. So she could not understand my mom, and she cannot understand my own experience. So that is like one of those things, sometimes family struggles with understanding you, maybe like supporting you. And that was for us, like mentally, emotionally. My grandma, for example, doesn't really understand this journey. And I told my mom, it's her own perspective. Like, you need to understand that not everyone is able to understand someone else's perspective, but maybe you don't know how to do that. So our experiences are different, but very similar because we are in this together. But my grandma doesn't understand it. So she won't understand why you're tired, why you making certain decisions for your mental health in this world, why she has more energy than both of us. So it started like with this comparison, and I felt that, comparing myself to my grandma that is 74, but she's got more energy than I do as a 28-year-old. So I started questioning myself, is there something wrong with me? And I started finding support. I started learning, and I started learning from siblings, because therapists didn't know, psychologists didn't know, there was not much out there talking about these experiences. There was just in those private groups on Facebook where nobody can like gaslight you or tell you, no, this is not, oh, you're being dramatic. They are very honest there. So I was like, oh my God, there's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah, good. Which is super important perspective to take. Like, it's okay to have my lens and my view and my perspective on the situation as a sibling. When I was reading your book, I thought about like not only siblings of who have like a child with a disability in the family, but also substance abuse, mental health. Like, I think like when you have a sibling who has a mental health condition, you also take over that caregiver role, which carries over to you into your adult life, which I have had experience with. Then you become the nurturer. It's the same type of role where you're like navigating all of the elevated emotions and, unpredictability, and you have to unlearn those behaviors, not only in your relationship with your sibling, but also your relationship with other people that you decide to, friendships, significant others, co-workers, even sometimes, like in the whole realm of your life. So it's a great, I am listening to this kind of thinking of my 2 kids, because they're both autistic, both with different needs. And my son, who's the older, definitely takes more of a nurturing role to his sister, who is younger and who has more needs. But he also, and I've talked about this before, has a lens of like where she's been, like through his experiences, nonverbal, feeling the world in similar ways, getting overwhelmed. Like, I think he has this layer that maybe a sibling who didn't go through those experiences might not understand, and Jamie has a younger daughter, or her daughter's younger than her son. And then Kim has, the gamut of ages up above and below of her kids who are older. So it's fascinating to think about them through your eyes, like think of my kids through your eyes.
I have to say, Mishka, the most impressive thing I've done prior to being Celie's mom, I've done a whole bunch of years of waiting and wanting in an adoption process that was pretty brutal. And in that time, I had no choice but to work on myself because I didn't have anything else to work on. The baby hadn't arrived. And I just feel like it's so refreshing and gives me so much hope that your perspective is so reflective and so forgiving of the generational stuff. I mean, I hear like 10 books that I've studied in every phrase that you answer back. I want you to know that I think you're a powerhouse, and the perspective that you've cultivated with this big sister caregiver, feel all the things, look at each color, just what a gift. So somewhere between your brother and your generational trauma and your everything else that we all come with, I just, God, congratulate you. The more that we can talk about how feeling is okay, and the more that we can normalize each little step in a big hurdle, or each little step in a big triumphant wonderful way, the more we can break the stigma down, which is really the thing that keeps us in those confines that you're talking about freeing yourself from or freeing your family from. I congratulate you so much. I think you're remarkable. In fact, I'm sending you a love note right now. I'm sorry if that dinged my ear.
I think that's what I think when I was reading the book. Like, the title of the book is about siblings, but it's really about this processing time frame and changing your view about diagnosis and the family scheme as a whole, which really is like a different perspective than what you read in a lot of books about this journey, like looking back from your experience. And it gives parents a lot of tips for how to change your mindset. And one of the things which we preach all the time on this podcast is like never assuming that your child can't do something or that they can't be something, and keep trying those experiences. Even if it goes awry one time, that doesn't mean the next time, as they've developed or as they're familiar or whatever the case may be, work on independence and making them feel value as a human being. When I was reading through this, I was out in public one time, and it was a event for autistic families, and there was a mom and her daughter picked up some crayons, and she was, I don't know if she was considered nonverbal or not, but her mom was like, oh, she can't color. And then she picked up the crayon and started to make marks on the paper. And I was like, well, look at this beautiful job of coloring, whether it's inside the lines or outside the lines. She picked up the crayon, she put it to the paper, like celebrating in our language, even if our kids can't speak. And no fault to this mom whatsoever, but for the perspective when we're looking at our kids, is like, even if it doesn't look what we would consider the label of coloring, the act of picking up the crayon and writing on the paper is something to be celebrated. Yeah, in language, so they can internalize. And I believe that with all of my being, that my kids hear every word that's said around them, whether they can respond back or not. It's important for them to like internalize positive things about themselves and be celebrated and understand that they have value in this world. Ugh, I'm gonna get emotional. Someone else. Someone else.
I think that's what's beautiful about the sibling relationship, is because you're born into this life. You don't have a choice who your siblings are. But as parents, we come at it, like through diagnosis and through everything else, like we're constantly hearing about the checklists and the milestones. So like for that mom, she's probably been told over and over again, like, oh, your child should have been coloring by this age, your child should have. So that mom's perspective is totally like, oh no, she can't color, she can't do this. But as a sibling, and I see this with my daughter, she's almost 4, and her brother's all she's ever known. She understands him so well. It's amazing to me. But it's like that perspective that she doesn't see the checklist. She doesn't see something wrong. She just sees that that's her brother. And it's a really beautiful relationship that I think that we all take for granted, like kind of what you were talking about, where we have to nurture that sibling, nurture that child, because it can only help both people grow. And we can learn so much because we're coming at it from one perspective. The outside world, like you were talking about your grandmother, they've gone their whole lives like, this is how you do things. And so they can't see it differently. And so the fact that you're willing to speak up and write about all this, it's amazing. And I love when siblings do it too, because I'm like, as moms, we just can't always do that, because it's hard to speak up when we're so caught up in the worry and everything else.
And different is, I don't like the hard, but different is hard for people outside of our little bubble that we're in. But like Jamie said, when a sibling, Kai is an only child, but when a sibling's born into it, it is really all that you know. We were talking about something the other day, and I was like, I didn't realize this until I saw other families, because you're just in your own sort of bubble of your family, and this is what you know. So for the outside world, what a resource your book is for them.
And it's true. Like I've always said, obviously I have 4 children. So my daughter has 3 siblings, and the dynamic's different. My son is older than her, but he was only 3 when she was born. So still like didn't really know anything too different because he was so young. When he was 2.5, she was a baby and then my other girls were they were born. You know what I mean? She was always there. So they didn't know a difference. They didn't see autism. They just saw their sister. But it is very hard on the siblings. And I've always said that. And they sacrifice a lot. I always struggle to try to, because I don't want them to resent her. I don't want, but they clearly have had to go without things, and we have to do things differently. We don't do things like the typical family because, well, it's always chaos. I mean, with 4, there's always chaos. You don't even need autism in that. But, there's certain things that we just can't do because of her. But I have to say, I think my kids have adjusted, relatively well to that. But the outside people don't see it. Like, they understand I go through a lot. Like, everyone's like, oh, how do you do it? Or, how are you handling this? But it's like, nobody sees what the children go through. Only the people that are right there, they kind of see it, but other people, they don't see it. They don't understand these things, like becoming a caretaker, and I don't want to use the word resentment. I don't think my kids resent their sister, but there's definitely times that it's hard. It's that day that yesterday we were going to a cookout. She had a huge fit. She wanted to wear her same shirt as yesterday. I didn't want to let her wear her same shirt as 2 days in a row. So I'm like, nope, you have to wear a different shirt. I mean, we couldn't get out of the house. It was a long drive. And I know they're annoyed. I'm annoyed. Everybody's annoyed. But it's like, I feel bad that they have to deal with that because, but at the same time, it's like they have to deal with that because we all live in the same house. It's hard to give that balance of giving them what they need, giving her what they need. There's always kind of somebody I feel like you're taking away from in order to meet the other person's needs. And I guess that happens with probably typical siblings as well. But, that's just something as a mom that I always struggle with. I always have a lot of guilt that they sacrificed and went without stuff. But I mean, obviously now they're adults-ish. I mean, my daughter just turned 18, so I'm not
Adultish.
considering her an adult yet, but
Emil's written her off, but
we can talk about, we can talk about it, and they're like, no, it's okay.
One thing that you talk about in your book, which I found highly fascinating, was your view of your brother's diagnosis. You told a story in your book about jumping on the bed. You two were jumping on the bed, having a good time. He fell off, and then you kind of carried. Did
anybody else, sorry, Tabs, but did anybody else say no more monkeys jumping on the bed right after you said he fell off? Because that's where I was.
That is scheme of things. You had carried that possibly had caused his autism after that experience. So talk a little bit about that mindset as a child, because I think it's fascinating with the conversations that we have with our kids, about their autism, because developmentally you have to be in the right place to be able to talk to them about their diagnosis and how that's going to go, but also talking to your other kids about the siblings' diagnosis without them taking on that maybe they did something.
Yes, this is a very, well, I'll be honest with you, sibling relationship, it's so complex. And that's why I'm glad that I went deep into writing a book and research and talking and seeing, because I wasn't aware of many of the things. As I was writing, things that I'm remembering, those situations like jumping on a bed. I mentioned that we were, this situation, the emotion appeared after 20, well, not 20, maybe 15 years maybe, because that happened when he was little. And we were playing and really loved jumping on a bed with me on my parents' bed. And we were laughing so much, and he would fall down. He was maybe 2.5, and he was so cute. And I always loved his joy and laughter. I was obsessed. I still am obsessed with his laughter and joy, because he's such a happy bubble boy. I mean, man now.
Yeah.
That's why we call it Happy Autism, because he's so happy. And we want to help our families be happy. That's the happiness. It was very inspired by him. But yeah, so that really changed really quickly, the emotion within me, because what happened, he fell off the bed, he hit his head, and he started crying, obviously. And my mom started, oh my God, drama. And I was so scared, but something happened to him. And my mom, she started like, oh my God, what happened? You know, and she started just being very scared. And I was very scared. And then when we realized that he's nonverbal, because obviously you got this how a regression, right? So the
Oh, yeah.
regression started happening, and I thought it's my fault because oh my God, so Samko started saying some words, and then he stopped, and then he got diagnosed nonverbal autism. So I thought that what if I did something? Is it my fault? Why he suddenly regressed? What if because we played and he hit his head and he fell his head, something happened in his brain? Maybe it's my fault. So I really well, as you can see, first of all, we didn't know much about autism. I didn't know much, and my parents, they didn't know about this. It was so hard for me to process, like I didn't even know how to process that guilt and that emotion. I didn't like understand that. So I just held it inside of me for so many years. And then well, if we moved to a few years ahead, like when I was in my 20s and we were just playing in the hot tub and Samko was laughing again and we were having so much fun like we used to when we were little, and he's like spitting water at me and it's just like having fun, and suddenly I'm hit with emotion. I was like, oh my God. And I started feeling a big sadness and grief that he's nonverbal and that he can't communicate verbally with me. And I started feeling the emotion that, did I do something? And I started feeling this horrible guilt and pain inside of my heart. And I just couldn't, I started crying immediately. And I felt like, oh my God, like in my brain, my emotions are telling me, you caused this. It's your fault. And my brain is saying, well, this is not logical. It's like, I could not meet like the trauma just like happened, like the emotion just happened. It hit me so hard that I just didn't understand, like because when you're in this emotional state, your brain is like, whoa, you're not making sense of things, you know. So you first have to regulate your emotional state to then make sense, and then reflect on it. Then when you're actually calmer, then you can actually be like, oh, what happened? So when you're in this big emotional state, it's like you don't understand. So I started crying and Samko came to me and he hugged me, and that caused even more tears because he's so empathetic. Like he just hugs me so tight and he's just like, so he's like literally holding space for me to like process those emotions. And I just felt, oh my God, like maybe I did something wrong. Maybe, I don't know, like, so I just have this feeling of like, this is my fault. And it's so fascinating when I started realizing that I'm reading from siblings that are saying, oh, you know, I felt sibling guilt. Guilt is a phenomenon, I think, because we have like guilt over things that I would not even imagine that it's logically possible. Like, for example, like, because we're children, right, in this world. And it's like guilt around, well, why am I not the one that it's autistic? Why am I not the one that has special needs? Why it has to be you? Maybe if it was me, that would be better. Maybe if I could just take your disability and put it on me, like, it's just like, sometimes you feel like, why, for example, twins. I heard from some are twins that one is autistic and the other one is not. And they're like, oh, why is it you that is autistic? Maybe it should have me. And I don't like to see that you're suffering in this world. Like, I wish it was me. And having such guilt, and it's just so fascinating for me to see that, because you know, certain things are not logical, but emotions I don't think are very logical, to be honest. They're not. I just like our mind where it says
Yeah.
our emotions are like different things. So it was very fascinating for me to see those point of views and just realize that if we don't talk about it, if we don't process it, then we hold it inside of us, and it's just like causing us unnecessary problems. So yeah, so I'm trying to open the doors with compassion and acceptance with this book. And I say one important thing is that I don't blame anyone, because it's for me to have conversation with my mom about my experiences. You know, I told her, please, this is very hard conversation, because I'm not here to blame you when I'm sharing all of this. I just need to be heard. Like, I need to be heard and need to be seen and acknowledge that this is my experience and validated. So I just spoke to her like, hey, this is what I need from you. I don't want you to feel guilty that you did something wrong, because I feel like you're the best mom in the world for me. And she honestly is. And one of the best things is, and that's what I wrote in at the back of this book, that when I was acknowledging her, that I'm so grateful that she's so open to do the work with me and that she did the work with me. That when I brought all these things and I started to open those conversations, she didn't say, no, I don't want to talk about this, which happens with certain parents because it's hard for them to process those things and they feel that guilt. So I'm extremely blessed that I could have that. I have mom like I do. And, you know, we are in this together because my parents are separated for around like and divorced around for 11 years, I think so. So, but it's all, I've always been the one that's always been there. So my stepdad, who's Samko's father, he also could hear certain things and realize that when he wasn't there, when he was working, when he was not present, that what I was going through, that he could actually acknowledge me and that it's bettering our relationship also in a certain way. So, and they could open the conversations that he could actually support me right now with what I'm doing, right? For example, the business and advocacy, so on. He's trying, you know, even though he's got his own family and so on. But my mom, she's the hero. And I wanted to empower all the moms and show you that your many times, like, you know, there's no guide around like how to do things. And if I can just give you some like navigation, some map to understand the journey, and some tools that are like, I know that worked for us so well and worked for some other people, that, you know, that's why I included research, because I didn't want to be like, oh, this is my experience. I wanted to see what are experiences of other siblings. I wanted to see experience what are others, what works. And I wanted to give something solid, because I don't like talk. I want proven evidence, you know, that's how I am.
Me too.
So I was like, that's how I am. So it's like, show me results. That's how I'm very focused on results. So that's what I wanted to put into this book. I didn't want to just talk about my experiences. You see just a few stories. So I didn't want to make a memoir. I believe that there are multiple people that need to be heard. And you know, and that's what I try to give platform to. So siblings love that also, adult siblings. And I'm very, very, very grateful, you know, that I could make this happen. And I'm here even talking to you. And it's because of my mom also, very big chunk. It's because of my mom.
So sweet.
Oh,
I
I
love that
know.
because I think as the moms, like, I mean, probably most of us had experienced that in the beginning when the diagnosis first comes or your child's falling behind. I know for me personally, before I really knew it was autism or what autism really was, I blamed myself. And I thought through my whole pregnancy, I thought about the one time my son fell off the couch and bonked his head, like all that stuff. And you there's so much guilt and blame, and your perspective as a sibling also having that. It's like something I've never even really thought about. With my daughter, my son gets very upset if she's upset. And that's something I do get concerned about. Like if she gets hurt and she's crying, then he enacts the same emotion. So she'll be crying and screaming. So he's crying and screaming. And I think about that all the time. I'm like explaining to her that it's not her fault if he's upset about something, because she's genuinely upset about something. So it's those little things that we have to navigate and really think about the whole picture. And that's what I love about you, because you're not just talking about the sibling, you're talking about the whole family dynamic and everyone else, and really thinking about it from that perspective and not getting caught up in our own worries. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, and
think
as moms,
that
we just
I
feel guilty
hear-
about everything, you know, like you feel guilty about everything. And I think, sorry, Rachel, in talking about it, I think it just makes people aware of it, because there's certain things that people aren't aware of, like the sibling guilt, like the things that you just like talk about. Like I never really thought about that perspective, you know. I know my perspective in like what I see, but I obviously don't know like what's on the inside. So that's I think just acknowledging it and talking about it, and then just making people more aware, because when you're aware, you can try to make changes.
Mishka, I want you to republish your book as the caregiver's guide to navigating autism and the journey. And then I want you to republish your book and call it the guide for teachers. And then republish the same words and call it the guide for the people that don't understand. And then send me 30 copies of those. Because truly, like Tabitha said at the beginning of our interview, everything that you've written is in the context of the sibling relationship. But what is crystal clear to us is that it's just another view of the same journey we're on, and that it's in your lens as a sibling who beams when you talk about your brother. I know that our listeners may not see what we see, but I mean, you like arch your back when you speak about him. Like you're just ready for the embrace. Anyway, I can tell that he changed you in the same way that my daughter entering my life changed me. And I can tell anybody that the lessons that you're bringing are just so deep rooted in all the good and in all the reconciliation within your heart and your brain and your, like, there's science and there's empathy and there's all sorts of layers to you. And I just think what a healing story. So I look forward to the same book, the same words for the teacher, for this, for that, for the
Yeah.
and then I want to see which sells the New York Times bestseller list first, because everybody needs this damn story. I've already ordered it.
So good. Highly recommend.
Because I would just listen to you every day like Jamie listens to Harry Potter.
I was just going to say that. So Mishka, thank you so much for joining. I mean, I could seriously talk to you for like 20 hours. We only hit the very tip of your experiences through your lens, all the great work that you're doing. People can find you. The website is www.happyautism.co. And then on Instagram and Facebook, Happy Autism. And then your work with your brother. What do you have for sale? Like his artwork? What do you guys have available to people?
So we have our merchandise, which is our t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and then we have also, he does commission art. So if anyone would be interested to get a painting, he paints squares, by the way, only that's like these ones, because he just chose that. I'm like, I respect his creative director decisions, like he's an artist, that's hard decisions. I'm like, okay, fine. So yeah, he does also.
Did you just say he only paints a square?
Yeah, look on the square canvas. Just on the square canvas.
You. I love him. I love you. I love him. I'll stop. So you keep going. Go.
Yes, just on the square canvas. He doesn't want. As soon as I started empowering him through this ability mindset I talked about in the first chapter, was like seeing him that letting him choose more and more and more, empowering him to make the choices. More he started being confident and really show up his boundaries with me.
He said, no, we're not doing circles or anything else.
No, he's like, no, this is what I want, and he's like, stands by it, and I'm like, yes, and I'm clapping hands because I'm like, yes, you believe in yourself. We need this. You need to believe in yourself. So yes, so we do. He does it also, and yes, I also do speaking and I do consulting around autism inclusion and sibling relationships and all the things. Like we have also a course, but I'm promoting book more. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, promote the book. We'll put the link in our podcast description when this goes up. It's available on Amazon for everybody out there.
Yes.
Please have Mishka come speak to all of the people about her experiences, because it's just so powerful. You're a gem of a human being. We're so lucky to be able to talk to you about your experience.
Such an inspiration.
Yes.
Very
Absolutely.
inspiring.
Different view that not many people are talking about. And
I want to buy Alyssa canvases right now.
That's all my daughter paints on canvases.
All
I
the
feel
squares,
like
I want
it's
them all.
like her thing. We go to the dollar store, we buy, she'll get the tall, different shapes of them, but that's what she paints on every day, are canvases. So it's very therapeutic for her. So kind of feel where your brother's going with that.
Yeah, Kaya's a fantastic artist. Jen's recently posted some of her artwork, which is just incredible as well.
I need to check it out.
Yes. So we thank you. We thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Everybody go buy the book, The Mother's Guide to the Sibling Relationship, available on Amazon. It's you won't be disappointed. I'll just say that if you read it. So thank you so much. Yes, thank you
Thank
for joining us.
you.
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing.
Thank you for joining us at the table for this interview with Mishka. To find links to her book, social media, and her brother's work, make sure to check our description. If you are enjoying the podcast, please make sure you are subscribed and rate and review us. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram. If you'd like to contact us, you can at tablefor5podcast@gmail.com. We have new episodes every Monday. Join us next week for our little 4th of July chat. We'll see you at the table then. Bye.